Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs postgame show podcast, live after the Cubs lose to the Padres, the rubber game at Wrigley Field, and they get shut out by San Diego 3-0. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Del Mendo with you. Hopefully, Ryan Herrera will join us from beautiful, historic Wrigley Field at some point after getting interviews with Craig Counsell and in the clubhouse. We'll see what he has to say, injury updates, good comments, questions you might have. You let us know. Shout out to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Best way to enjoy the CHGO experience is subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page so you don't miss any of the shows. Then while you're there, go ahead and get yourself a Die Hard membership. Speaking of Die Hard, shout out to Jacob, our newest Die Hard. We had something like 200 of them, new Die Hards or renewals just last month. So Jacob, welcome aboard. And this was a game, Cody would like to say, flush it and move on.
Yeah.
One hit.
Definitely.
Hit.
I don't normally drink after losses, but definitely need a blue moon after that one.
Not a beer bat chug. This is just a slow burn.
Just need a beer after that one. Yeah, Dylan Cease, it was the patented Dylan Cease revenge game. It's not the first time. Won't be the last time. He's a really good pitcher, and that's why I was so freaking pissed throughout most of last night's game, because it was like, if you don't win last night's game and you go into today and have a game like we actually watched, and you just swept at home by the Padres, it's bad. So for me, I guess I'm just more so happy that they won last night than anything. Today sucks. I mean, I think sometimes you just face a really good pitcher and things don't work out. Now, the offense hasn't been hitting over the last handful of weeks. I do think that there were some bad at-bats today, some non-competitive at-bats. There were times where it looked like the offense, guys at the plate, looked like they were guessing, and they didn't guess right, clearly. It's one of those things. I think in general, like, you just ran into a guy who's been really good this year. But at the same time, you got to have more competitive at-bats. The guy has had a problem with walking dudes over the course of his career. He only walked 2 guys today. Like, that's how you get to him. And when they were in San Diego and they faced him, he gave up a homer to Michael Busch. So sometimes he can be susceptible to giving up homers too. Like, he can strike out 10, 11 guys, but also give up the long ball. And it was probably going to be tough to give up the long ball today considering the wind was blowing in. But the hardest hit ball the Cubs hit today was 94 miles per hour, brother. So, yeah, I mean, there's really no excuse for the offense today outside of the fact that Cease is just really good. But even though I said last night that I'm optimistic about the offense, it doesn't mean that I'm not worried about it in the moment. I still feel good about the offense going forward long term, but in present, yeah, I'm worried because you didn't hit off Vasquez last night, who you should have, and then you face one of the best pitchers in the league and you don't do anything against him, and it's actually like laugh out loud funny bad, right? So now you go to Pittsburgh, and Paul Skeens is going to make his debut on Saturday, who's, the best pitching prospect in all baseball. You got to, they've been on a bad stretch, but if you're not hitting, man, it doesn't really matter who you're facing. Like, if your offense in general just isn't hitting, anyone can beat you. So this offense has got to get it going. Seiya Suzuki's supposed to be back for this series, so hopefully that's a help. But yeah, the offense simply just has to be better, man. It just simply does. And I think it will be, but they're just going through a really tough stretch right now.
This was the ex-Cub factor game, I like to call it. Anytime they go against an ex-Cub, you never expect good things to happen. He has dominated them in 2 starts this season. Of course, he never pitched for the Cubs, but he was a Cubs prospect, traded for Quintana, yada, yada, yada.
We all know.
13 innings, 19 strikeouts, and just 3 hits for the Cubs in 2 games against Dylan Cease. He's better. He looks better without the cheesy mustache. He's really good.
The beard really does fit him better.
I did think at one point during the game, I wonder what the Cubs would have had to give up in order to trade for Cease.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily have been for it because at that point they still could have signed some guys.
I think the Padres moved the guy that they got back for Juan Soto, like the main piece that they got back for Juan Soto, who was like a top 5 prospect in their system. You get 2 years of control of Cease, I was never against trading for Cease. I just never thought the White Sox would send Dylan Cease to the Cubs personally, unless the Cubs would have sent it like in a ridiculous haul. You know,
Madrigal back the other way.
Wisdom. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know what the
I
deal
could be
was.
wrong. You know, it's all.
It probably
you know,
was never
hindsight.
in play. Probably was never in play. The conversation maybe was never had.
Yeah.
But
And we've had the conversation about, you know, in hindsight, about
won the trade?
who won the trade, and like what they should have done. And we all know that they probably should have traded for Verlander instead.
that's the mistake. The mistake is not
right.
trading Cease and Eloy. The mistake is trading for the wrong guy.
And then,
But
yeah,
again, if you're on the White Sox side of it, they never even won a playoff series with those two guys.
yeah.
So the Cubs did win playoff series with Quintana. So
Yeah, and that, you know, someone was like trolling me in my replies on Twitter, and it's just funny because it's like, we still gonna talk about this just because he's on the Padres now? Like make it stop. It just makes me eye roll so much because the Cubs actually had success with Quintana, and the White Sox didn't have any success with Cease outside of him being in the Cy Young race for a season that they didn't even make the playoffs. Is that his fault? Probably not.
No,
they got more value out of him for sure. And this is why
it took him a little bit longer to
Right.
develop than maybe they wanted, like fully develop into that pitcher. But
Sure.
this is an example of the type of conversation and the thought process that not only we should have as fans, but we know that Jed Hoyer is having right now as well. You're trying to build this team back into a team that can get to the NLCS and hopefully beyond, right? That's what you're hoping to do. Now, they were already at that point when they made the trade for Quintana, but you know that you have built up the farm system. You've accumulated chess pieces, if you want to just call them that, even though they're human beings with lives. But
with feelings.
yeah, but assets, if you want to call them assets, you've accumulated these assets, and not all of them are going to get to the major league level with the Chicago Cubs.
Right.
So, which ones will you trade for pieces coming back that will help take you to that next level?
Right.
Now, that specific trade may not have worked out perfectly in either scenario. Obviously, from the Cubs side, it didn't work out perfectly, but it made sense at the time. So now the question is, when Jed goes to make those deals this time around, whether it's for a reliever in May that we talked about last night, or a reliever in late June that we talked about last night, or if it's for another bat or somebody else, a third, well, who knows what they're looking for at the end of the season, potentially at the trade deadline. You're not always going to just be able to trade guys that you think aren't going to make it. You're not always going to be able to say, all right, we would like you to take Mervis and this guy's blocked, so we'll give you that guy. And, you know, how about we also give you so-and-so because we don't think he's our best prospect. Sometimes teams want your best prospects in the deal, and you either have to be willing to do it or you have to be willing not to get the trade done.
And also, it takes two sides to tango,
That's right.
right? Like, you could say you want to throw in Mervis or Brennan Davis or whoever. That doesn't necessarily mean that team wants those guys either. So there has to be some sort, for a trade to actually work out or to play out, there's got to be mutual interest on whoever the Cubs are willing to give up and whoever wants those, you know, whatever team you're talking to. I was going to, you kind of helped transition to me. What I was going to bring up is the conversation we had last night about Mason Miller and Tanner Scott. You know, Mason Miller will require at least two of your top 100 prospects.
So potentially Cease and Eloy.
Right.
A very similar deal.
Two of your top 100 guys in all of baseball. I'm not talking about the system. I'm talking about in all of baseball. So we're, you know, whether it's PCA or Cade Horton, Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey.
PCA and
Matt
Casey, you
Shaw,
willing to do that right
you know?
now in May?
Right.
No. No.
I'm
not trading.
I think most
I'm
people
not,
would say,
no.
well, you went through a list last night and you were like, I'm not trading Casey for somebody. I'm not trading PCA and I'm not trading Matt Bush. Like, right? You went through several guys and the other teams are going to say, well, fine, then we're not trading you.
You said Matt Bush. It's Matt Shaw.
Yeah, Matt Shaw.
I
Bush
hear
on the
what you're
mind.
saying.
He was the
Yeah.
big hero last night, you know.
Right. But the thing is, like, I could still be really far off with that. With how
Matt Bush is probably
with how good Mason Miller has been for the A's, they might want even more than that. Like if there isn't,
especially in May,
right? And so that's why, to me, trading for someone like that just is, at this point right now, just seems really unrealistic. Could the A's be way out of it, like we all expect them to be in July? Sure. That still doesn't even necessarily mean that they want to trade him. Like, he's a valuable asset for them. I don't. They're the A's. I don't really understand the direction of them. Like, their ownership. If there's one owner in professional sports that's worse than Jerry Reinsdorf, it's John Fisher. Like it's a terrible organization. So yeah, like maybe they would just like give him away for what feels like nothing, because they did that with Matt Olson and they did that with Sean Murphy, and the list goes on and on. So yeah, perhaps I don't feel like that's going to happen right now. And if it does actually happen later in the year and you get a guy like that and the package isn't how I feel like it would be, then I'll give Jed all the credit. But, just as fans, me and you sitting here talking right now, it just feels like he is going to cost a ton. So we talk about, I'm sure people in the chat are either agreeing or disagreeing with me and you when it comes to the Cease conversation about how the Cubs lost this trade still. It's not washed this, should have done this, should have done that. And it's like, do you want to sit here in 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer, if they move on from one or two of these guys and they go on to be great for whatever team it is?
Jackson Ferris, Barb does it every other
yeah,
show.
Barb is doing it every day. Like, for a reliever, it's just not the same for me. If we're talking about an impact player that can come in and play for you every day, then yeah, I'm more willing to talk about it. So, yeah. But the Cease stuff, it's just, as we've said, it sucks. I don't know how else to say. It just sucks.
It hurts. But the reluctancy to do it in May, which again, that has to be two-sided too. Not every team's going to be wanting to trade guys in May, but if there is a reluctancy to do it right now, like people want immediate impact, like the best reliever out there, that's costly, and you might regret Jackson Ferris, but right now Michael Busch leads all rookies in OPS and home runs. Mm-hmm. So, and that's an everyday player. Mm-hmm. So he may turn out to be a very good player, and because he went to the Dodgers, I'm guessing he will be a very good pitcher. But not every deal is going to end up being one-sided for the Cubs. Not every deal is going to be Kenny Lofton and Aramis Ramirez to the Pirates. Yeah. Which, by the way, Aramis Ramirez, when they got him, it wasn't like they were getting 7-time All-Star Aramis Ramirez. It was like, oh, that's a nice player. That could be something. That might work. Yeah. And the same goes for when they got Ryne Sandberg. It wasn't like, oh, here's future Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg. It was just a trade. When they got Jake Arrieta, it wasn't like, oh, well, this guy's going to win the Cy Young right away. Like, he's going to be unbelievable and take him to the World Series. He was damaged goods a little bit from the Orioles. So, at first, whatever deal they do make this season, I think you're not really going to know how it plays out. Mm-hmm. But don't expect it to be totally one-sided. If you're willing to part with some of those guys, which I think you should be, you also have to be willing to feel a little bit of anxiety or need a little Pepto-Bismol a couple times a year when you're looking across the field or you're looking at highlights and you're like, whew, we had that guy. Yeah. Just like the Sox are looking at Tatis on the other side and they're like, oh, James Shields, that worked out.
Yeah. Well, even Sox fans could be looking at Dylan Cease right now being like, man, we really traded that? I understand that they're in a transition right now of trying to rebuild their organization and everything. So it probably is smart that they traded him, but with the way he's pitching, you got to think maybe right now they probably could have got a lot more for him at the deadline than before the season. Maybe. Yeah. That's just how good he's been.
And another thing relevant to today's game when we're talking about trades is another reason I'm not willing to go full bore in May right now is because I said last night, well, I don't know if this team is really going to be there at the end and serious playoff contenders. Now, I kind of think they will if they get healthy, but that's when I'd be ready to make that move.
Yeah.
You see Wesneski, a guy right now, and you're like, well, wait a minute. That's a guy that could fix the bullpen here. I'm not taking him out of the rotation right now, but somebody else comes back, and all of a sudden you say, well, maybe he could really help us in the bullpen. Maybe he could be that guy we go to, because we'll talk about him later in the show. His outing was decent again.
Yeah, I mean,
if not good.
You want to talk about trades? Like the Wesneski for Scott Effross trade looks pretty good for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Even through all the ups and downs he had last year. So
not for the Yankees, it doesn't look great.
Effross had to end up having Tommy John after his half season, and I don't think he's been back yet. And I feel bad for him because he's such a great guy, and I liked him.
He was effective.
And he was good, right? The thing is that the Yankees, they have set their organization set up so well to where like a trade like that isn't going to affect them long term. And that's the one pushback that I will allow fans to come at me about, is that if you have the prospect capital like the Cubs do, if you make a trade, you sell however many guys for a guy like Mason Miller. If your scouting, development, drafting continues to do what it's been doing, then you'll eventually get new guys that will be able to come in there and get the job done, or at least get your system back at a level where you feel good. Do I have confidence that the Cubs could do that? Well, based off how fast they flip the farm system narrative, especially the pitching side of it, in just what, 2.5 years? How fast they flip that? But perhaps I could have some confidence in that. But again, to me, it really depends on who you're moving. And
2.5 years can feel like 10.
Yeah, sure.
As we know.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I'll tell you what. Today was a day to be at Wrigley Field weather-wise. This was a beautiful, like today's weather, 10 out of 10. Chef's kiss to it. And it has me thinking, hey, boys, it's grilling season. Get your pork. People who are active need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, Dietitians of Canada, and American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes, depending on their training. Now, 1 3-ounce serving of pork provides 23 grams of high-quality protein that can help active individuals build and preserve muscle. The International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that people who are involved in a general fitness program or who are interested in optimizing their health at any age eat low-fat, high-quality sources of protein, including lean cuts of pork. So elevate your protein game with lean pork, a powerhouse of goodness and natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork and juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product, paid for by the Illinois pork producers. Generations of commitment. I could go for a seltzer right now.
Want me to go get you one?
Do we have some here? Do we got a little? We have a little of the Penrose seltzers. I feel like I'm a little dried up.
Today is a perfect day for a seltzer.
Studio B is a little dry. The fan's blowing on me. I could go for Penrose Brewing, Geneva, Illinois, Seltz Up, hard seltzers with real fruit, led by Lemon Seltz Up, a national gold medal winning hard seltzer with real lemons. We created our unique twist on a lemon shake-up with a house-made hard seltzer and pureed lemons for a throwback to warm weather and county fairs. Also available, the Lemon Tea-Up, a half and half inspired by hard seltzer. Just released this year, the Transfusion Seltz Up, inspired by a popular golf cocktail with grape, ginger, and lime. Penrose Brewing, you can go by their tap room in Geneva. You can go by and get it at wherever you get your beverages. Man, let me tell you, they hit the spot. Scream summer, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Penrose seltzers. Just tried them for the first time about 3 weeks ago. And
Same.
Okay.
The lemon one. Yeah. Big fan.
Ginger. Ginger, by the way, underrated taste.
Mm-hmm. Could use one, but, you know.
Excuse me. See what I'm saying?
I'll go with a nice Blue Moon.
Be a little seltzer. By the way, do you know who provided the power today? Outside of Dylan Cease?
Old Reliable.
Jan Gomes provided the power for today's game, presented by the Illinois pork producers. Savor the flavor, savor the gains. Celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. Jan provided the only hit of the game by the Cubs today. And because he had that lean protein in his speedy little legs, he got down to first base, even though they're elderly.
Yeah.
He got down to first base, and we didn't have to suffer through a no-hitter.
36-year-old Jan Gomes. Gonna be 37 in
Lean
July.
pork protein kept him fast enough to beat it out, so we didn't have to deal with a no-hitter.
Honestly, like, shout out to Dylan Cease on that one, because I'm pretty sure that ball that he hit, like, grazed Cease's glove.
Yeah.
Which slowed the ball down, and Bogarts just didn't get there quick enough.
Cease probably went for, like, chicken parm last night, being in Chicago or something like that. Mm-hmm. Sorry, pal, you should have got some chops at Chicago Cut.
And you would have got the no-hitter.
Illinois pork.
It is pretty crazy to think about what you just said, that they were a mere couple of inches away from being no-hit today.
Only Jan Gomes' speed kept the Cubs from being no-hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I should not be laughing, but I'm, like, to be honest with you all listening, watching, I'm laughing through the pain because it's the only way I know how to get through it. Some people deal with their pain in certain ways. The only way I know how to get through pain is making stupid-ass jokes that most people don't think that are funny, and then just laughing at some of the dumbest shit. And Jan Gomes being the only person to get a hit today for the Cubs and it being an infield single, I'm sorry, is laugh out loud funny.
At least this was a good team you lost to.
Yeah.
Yes, it stinks that this is your first series loss at home. It's to a good team. You have a stretch of division games coming up to really start to separate yourself from the bottom of the division. There's some silver linings here. It stinks that you got shut out and almost no hit today, but that's a good team you lost to. It's not the worst thing in the world.
To spin it, Hayden Wesneski was awesome today, man.
Yes,
he was really good. That's
he was great.
We mentioned
3
it
runs,
last
6+ innings. Like, yeah,
it's a quality start.
Yeah,
it's a quality start. And whether he's used in the bullpen or if he's used as a 6th or 5th starter this season, he has now started to show me a pretty good body of work that says, you know what, he didn't make the team. He was disappointed, and everybody was disappointed he didn't make the team out of spring training. But he's worked on whatever he needed to work on enough that now I look at him and say, okay, this guy, I believe he's here to stay. Now, that might not mean there's a day where they have to shuttle him because they need a fresh arm. But to me, he's going to be a productive piece the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
is it perfect? No. But it's all trending in the right direction for him.
I'll say, if you want to criticize anything, the big question for him coming in the year was, like, can he get lefties out? Mm-hmm. Now, Luis Arias, he's getting on base no matter who the hell's throwing the ball. He hit a ball today it was the inning they scored 2 runs to make it 3-0. One of the ball that Arias hit, that ball was nowhere near the zone, and he still just looped it out to right field. I don't understand. The point is Arias is a really good hitter. But he had 2 hits. Cronenworth, 2 for 3. But you go down the lineup, Merrill, 0 for 3. And then the rest of their lineup was all righties. So it was a good matchup for Wesneski. As we've seen, he, like in the past, he really struggled against lefties. So far this year, I still feel like it's a little bit of a mixed bag. But
it's not lopsided.
Yeah, and it's not like he's giving up tanks, Sure, perhaps it helped that the wind was blowing in today, but it's not like anyone for the Padres hit one to the warning track even. I felt like the Padres offense was almost just as bad as the Cubs. They just had some balls that found grass.
Just poor the 2-strike selection from Wesneski on just a couple fastballs that just missed their spots.
Yeah, the one that Cronenworth hit that drove in that 3rd run, that was 95 down the middle of the plate. He missed his spot on that one, and that led to them scoring that 3rd run, right? But, again, if your starter goes 6 innings and 3 earned, I mean,
it's a quality start.
I'm not going to sit here and criticize the guy.
Quality
start. Like, you got to score runs.
I'm
always going to say that.
His last 2 starts are 12 innings, 3 runs.
Yeah. He's been great.
Well,
hey, you got to hit.
What else?
For like a 6-7 starter on your roster right now,
Yes.
Like, he's going to be
or potentially a good reliever.
Right. Like, he's going to probably be a really good weapon in the bullpen, specifically against righties for sure. But yeah, he stepped in nicely, and he's definitely shown the Cubs that he deserves to be here. And I'm excited about the future, man. A lot of people were down on him in the offseason because he was, I wouldn't say last season was a massive disappointment. He was a rookie, and he had ups and downs. He had good appearances, and he had bad appearances. That's what a lot of rookies do. But a lot of people going into last year, he was like a popular rookie of the year bet because of what happened in September of 2022.
Specifically on your app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Listen, I was drinking the Kool-Aid, but that doesn't mean that when he had his downs that I like completely threw him out the window or whatever. Like I still had some belief that he could be a really good piece of this team. And so far he has been. So, I think he's taken positive steps forward. And once this offense gets going again, which again, long-term, I think it will, we'll see how effective he can be as a reliever. And, and as we've seen, injuries happen. And he might be in the rotation. I don't know. But he's really stepped in nicely in place of Jordan Wicks while he's been out.
What did you think of Alzolay and the mayor, Keegan Thompson, finishing up the game? One thing I will say is...
What about Lovelady?
And Lovelady. I was surprised that Ben Brown didn't throw in any of the 3 games. That was surprising to me. I thought he was going to pitch in the first game. Then I thought he was going to pitch last night. Then I thought he was almost like a piggyback start today if they needed it with Wesneski, depending on how it went. He didn't pitch in any of them. And then it was sort of like you're down 3-0, and I'm not saying it was – it's an insult to say they were waving the white flag. They weren't, but they were putting them in low-leverage situations.
When you're down
because you were
runs.
down 3-0. Yeah. That said, and they didn't give up any more runs, but I was concerned because I thought if you could get Cease out of there, which Barb said, why didn't they take more pitches? I do think there were a couple of at-bats where I was disappointed that guys were swinging so early in the count. Yeah. But, they were figuring that's the best they might get.
There were some at-bats where they took too many pitches.
But I thought with Cease out, you had 3 innings to still try and get 3 runs, which wasn't unthinkable.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't happening. Even when Cease was out of the game, that's when you look at it and say, man, this offense was struggling today. It wasn't just Cease.
Right.
It was also the offense. And Dansby didn't play because his knees kind of banged up, and that was an opportunity.
That goes all the way back to the Astro series. And
it's a chance for counsel to look and say, listen, this guy hates and almost – he talked about it with us in the media in Nashville. Well, I'm going to have to talk to him. He's going to have to miss some games. He's not going to play every game. What's best for the team? Well, this was an opportunity where he sees, okay, you're off on Friday or off on Thursday. So now if I sit him Wednesday, he's got 2 full days off. And I don't think Dansby would have made the difference. Maybe he would have. Who knows? Today, but
defense was fine today.
It was outweighed by the opportunity to get him 2 days off his feet completely, even though he probably didn't want it.
Right. I mean, as far as the guys out of the bullpen, I'll start with that. With what you're saying, Lovelady honestly should have struck out the side, but the umpire screwed him on a strikeout to Cronenworth. It was horrible. It was terrible. The ball was top of the zone away, like fully in the strike zone, just absolutely awful. Which led to I think he faced the next batter, ended up giving up a hit. Or no, he didn't give up a hit. Maybe he walked him because he had 2 strikeouts and a walk. But counsel pulls him after that. Then Alzolay comes in, gets the final out. The next inning, Alzolay came out. He went 1, 2, 3, didn't give up any runs, but I can honestly sit here and tell you I don't really feel any better. I think that this is the role that you only use Alzolay in at this point. Like, when you're down, like, if you're not going to DFA him, which they're not, and he doesn't have any options, so you can't send him back to Iowa, and
you hope to not pitch him in a 1-run game.
Right. Like, this is... If there's any way of them getting him back to being what you need him to be in terms of just being a reliable late-inning reliever, I'm not even saying closer, just a reliable late-inning reliever, they not only need to get his confidence back, but he needs to start getting more whiffs. And he still isn't getting those. He didn't show that today. A couple flyouts. I think there was a ground out. The first batter he faced, Morel made a nice play, was hit 100 miles per hour, had a 440 expected batting average. I I think it was Profar who hit it, and thankfully it was hit right to Morel. So that would have been more runs if Morel doesn't make that play. So again, I don't feel any better, but when you're down 3 runs, I don't hate that you brought him in. That's the situation. I feel like if you're going to use them, that's the only time to use them. So, and then Keegan Thompson struck out the side in the 9th inning, which was a big bounce back for him after his last couple outings. He hadn't been very good. So
he's actually been more of a roller coaster this season than Alzolay. Like Keegan's giving you some flashes of, oh, wow, this is what the guy we saw a couple years ago.
But then he gave up all those runs
was the mayor.
The Mets.
Right.
And,
he's had a couple down ones, but he's also had some very good outings where you're like, okay.
Yeah. So but maybe that's just what bullpens are, though, right? Like, except for like your
and that's
elite
why
guys.
that's why you're not giving up your top prospects for a reliever in May. I just don't think it's going to happen because the next year, the guy you just traded for, A, he might not even be on the team because he might be a free agent, or B, he just might not be that good.
Yeah.
There's like 3 closers in baseball that you give up top prospects for.
And they're not available.
Right. Exactly. There's like
They're not
3
available.
guys.
Now, they might have been available in the offseason.
And one of them hasn't been very good this year.
That's right. He was available, but you had to give him huge money, and so far that hasn't.
The one guy everybody wants is playing for are the Guardians in first place? I think they're in first place, right?
Yeah.
Class A's got 12 or 13 saves on the year. He's not going anywhere. They're not getting rid of him.
Not
That's
yet.
the one guy.
Not in that division.
No way. Yeah, that's
Again,
the one
this
guy you
doesn't-
might want.
What we're saying about the relievers, I don't want people to get it twisted because I feel like people have been. It doesn't mean that we don't think the Cubs.
Right. We think they need help.
Yes, it doesn't mean that we don't think the Cubs don't need to make a move for a reliever. The ones that everyone are talking about, Tanner Scott's the only one that really makes a ton of sense. But even I have questions about him just because he hasn't been getting a ton of whiffs or strikeouts this year compared to what he was doing last year. Can it get better? Is it early? Sure. Yeah. He's also in a walk year, so you shouldn't have to give up a ton for him. Am I willing to roll the dice with that? Yes. So, it makes a lot of sense for someone like him for this Cubs team. And when you talk about is this team good enough to win the World Series? I don't think so. I don't think that they're a World Series team. Do I think they're a playoff team? Yes. Do I think that they can make some noise in the playoffs? Yes. But do I think that they're good enough? Even if they add a reliever, say they sold the farm to get a reliever, do I think that they win the World Series? No. In 2016, when they sold Gleyber Torres and 3 other prospects for Aroldis Chapman, they were one piece away
And
from
they were the
World
best
Series.
team in baseball.
And they were the best team in baseball, had the biggest run differential in all of baseball that year. This team just isn't that, man. They're a good team. They're a team that's going to win this division, and I do think they could make some noise in the playoffs. We think
it's May.
It's May, right. So
barely.
It's hard for me to say that we should go all in and trade for some, guy who we think could make the team better in terms of the bullpen. I just think that I still think that the best case scenario is developing someone.
Right.
I still think that is the case.
And the Cubs have, for all the things that Jed and Theo did to get the team to the World Series, places that they have missed, they still have never developed an in-house closer in the organization. Now, unless you want to consider Alzolay to still be that guy at some point, but no. you haven't developed a hater or whoever you might be saying.
Even before the year, we all never really thought that he was going to be the World Series closer.
They may they may have finally turned the corner on developing those starters.
Yeah.
Right? Like that may be starting to turn. You see Steele and you see, Imanaga's a guy that you signed, but he still hasn't been with another team. Wicks, other guys. You might be starting to see, Wesneski.
Brown.
Again, trades, but then just like Hendricks developing the guy. Sure. That might be down the pipeline, and it sure looks like it is. But so far, the clear-cut closer developing thing has been something that they've missed on, and that they've been willing to sit and say, we'll wait till the very end to pay for that guy, as opposed to paying midseason or paying big money in the offseason like Hader, and then having that be a flop. We'd rather have it fail us in that late playoff push than we would have it fail us for a whole season, and then we're like, that's just what it seems to be their game plan at this point. My game plan would be to spend more time on Circa Sportsbook in the next month.
I mean, I lost every
money
bet
to be
today.
had.
I lost every bet today because the Cubs had one hit, and it was
Which means you're due.
Which means maybe on Friday I'm due. I know for sure tomorrow I'm taking a break. Some of us got to know our limits, and I know that I need a break tomorrow. So, yeah, I'll get back at it on Friday on Circa. There's 3 reasons why I love them, though. Their tight money line splits are one of them. The games strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use a -115 or -120 split. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. Another reason that I really love them is they actually invite you to just check out other sports betting apps just so you can see how great Circa is in terms of the odds, right? They don't limit and they don't limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. Say you're on another book and you're on a nice little hot stretch. Sometimes those books will take away boosts that everyone else is getting and stuff like that. Circa won't ever do that to you. So, that's why they encourage bettors to download all the other sports betting apps available and not only compare those lines, but, again, they're not going to take away any of those extra boosts from you. And then third, their customer service is awesome. You talk to real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. And all aspects of their app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sports book at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So, download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
The next 13 Cubs games are against the Pirates and the Braves, so it's time to invade Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Great ballparks to go visit. Nice little road trip. Then Phil Wrigley again when the Cubs return home, including the next Friday 120 Club game coming up on Cody's birthday. The way to do it, GameTime, an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying baseball tickets. But that's not all. Tim McGraw, Janet Jackson coming to the United Center soon. Justin Timberlake coming to the United Center in June and October.
I'm going to both in June.
And with GameTime, you get to view the seat you're going to sit in and know what it's going to look like, so there's no surprise there. They have the low price guarantee. They have the event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and all of that. By the way, with zone deals, you can save even more money when you choose a section and then let GameTime choose the seats if you want. Take the guesswork out of buying baseball tickets and more with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code CHGO. 4 important letters, CHGO. Did you hear that? CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code CHGO, $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We're waiting to see if Ryan Herrera is going to be able to join us from beautiful historic Wrigley Field as they wrap up the homestand there by losing 2 out of 3 to the Padres. We have an update from Iowa. Seiya Suzuki, 2 for 2 with a walk for Iowa. And it appears that he might be on track. We'll see if Ryan knows any more about this. It appears that he will be on track to possibly join the Cubs for their next game Friday in Pittsburgh. So that's good news for the offense. I want to get injury updates from Ryan on. I want to know if Tauchman's okay after that dive, and I want to know if Nico's okay because I'm still not sure where that ball hit him. At first, we thought it was the guard. Then it looked like it hit him in the tricep or the bicep, and then some people said it hit him in the hand. Either way, it looked painful, and I'm afraid that that's going to be one of those that when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he's like, ooh, don't know if I'm playing on Friday. So we'll see about that.
I would be joining Cody in Lake Michigan if Nico heads to the IL.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you hate seeing Ian
Gary
Happ,
says top of the hand. See, I know that's what people have been saying. I couldn't tell.
if you hate seeing Ian Happ hit third, I'd just ask me about having to see Nick Madrigal play every single day. All right, I hope Nico is okay.
Yeah, I mean, he has been their Iron Man. If he goes out, I mean, that would stink. Hopefully he's all right. Ryan's here. Let me get him popped in here in a second. But yeah, it's never good to get hit high and tight with anything. And he looked like he was in some pain for a lot of that.
Oh yeah. And by the way, right before we go to Ryan, hold Ryan just for 1 second because he loves to sit there. We do want to shout out Cubs Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg, who did wrap up round 6 of his chemo for his cancer treatment. And on Instagram, he tweeted out a couple of pictures, said, it's good. He thinks he's maybe through the worst part. Some of the steroids are causing him to gain a little weight, but now he feels like he's going to be able to do more walking, go to the ballpark more, golf, exercise, all those things. And he's thankful. He's in good spirits and keep all the good thoughts going his way. So good luck to Rhino. We're thinking about him and hope everything continues to go well as he battles cancer. I mean, 6 rounds of chemo, not fun.
I mean, it's been good seeing him at Wrigley Field and stuff like out
and just
with
staying
the
active and
community
updating us in social media. It's been kind of nice
Yeah.
for people that are wondering, how is he doing?
Right.
And for that matter, he's also inspiring people that are going through the same thing.
Exactly.
That aren't getting the same attention. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan's out there. He's ready now. Oh, wait a minute. We got Ryan Hawaiian Herrera.
Hawaiian Ryan, yeah.
He knew it. He knew it was going to be a nice warm day at Wrigley Field. He broke out the Hawaiian. Is that the first? It's the first time we've seen the Hawaiian without like a hoodie over the top.
Yeah, Monday I had the Hawaiian out because the sun was out, but then when the sun went down, it got cold, so I had the CHGO camo hoodie. But yeah, it's the first day with the Hawaiian, and like people here were like telling me it's not really a Hawaiian because it's not like crazy floral pattern, but
I'd still call it a Hawaiian.
It's like a hybrid. It's like a hybrid because there's like little flower designs.
It's a button down, but I'd still call it Hawaiian button down.
I've just gotten to understand the people on the Cubs beat just a bunch of haters. All right, so don't listen to them.
To me specifically.
Hey, we got some injury questions before we get to the game. Is Tauchman okay? Is Nico okay?
Yeah, I mean, no real updates on either of them afterwards. Obviously, both stayed in the game. Nico, when was the hit by pitch? That was in the 3rd inning.
And it was his
game,
hand.
so.
Gary Ross in the chat saying hand. I couldn't tell from watching it.
I couldn't tell either. I had people yelling at me on Twitter that it wasn't. I thought it like hit him like it glanced off his arm.
It looked like it was off his arm or
looked
shoulder.
Looked like tricep, bicep to me.
Yeah.
But if Gary says hand, I always trust Gary.
Yeah.
Because we're on the slaughter train together.
Yeah.
That's what it
You
looked
were
like
the
to
first
me.
one
I
who
know people
started
said
Right,
that.
yeah, of course.
People said that he couldn't get his glove, the oven mitt thing on. I didn't catch that, but yeah, no updates on those guys. Stayed in the game, obviously. I know Tauchman came up a little bit. Like he like kind of twitched a little bit as he got up after that dive, but seems that they're both okay. Like I said, Nico obviously stayed in the rest of the game, so no. I don't know if it's a cause for concern yet. Obviously, a couple days until they hit Pittsburgh, and maybe there's an update, or maybe a couple days and seeing what happens, or in a couple days they're completely fine and nothing to worry about. So I'd say Pittsburgh maybe if there's an update is when we can expect one.
And Dansby was sitting because of a sore knee, and he'll get 2 days off now?
Yeah, so it was like a sore knee that Council said the last game against Houston, so last homestand, I believe it was, a couple weeks back, that he was sliding and it tweaked it on a slide against the Astros, and it had just been kind of bugging him, just maybe nagging a little bit. He did have a day off. I think it was in New York, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe there was something there then. But obviously he's been playing, and so Council said today get him the day off, and obviously with the day off tomorrow, a couple days, and I think the hope for now is just that give him a couple days on his feet or off his feet, and especially with just a complete off day tomorrow, that hopefully Friday he's good to go, Neo feels fine, and go from there. But that's why, Dansby wasn't in the lineup today.
Where do you think the Cubs go roster-wise with Seiya likely coming back maybe as early as Friday?
I mean, my guess is Pete, Crow-Armstrong going down, back down to AAA. Something that Council talked about. Council and Jed actually both talked about it during this series. That obviously Cody came back yesterday, and Canario was the one who got optioned down. But with your full outfield around, Mike Tauchman's obviously playing well. There's just not a lot of everyday at-bats for Pete Crow-Armstrong. So I think the idea, and this is something that Jed talked about, I think that was Monday, that for a guy just in development, right? Like if it's like you don't do what you did with him in September and May. Like if you're going to bring him up to be a role guy, defensive replacement, base runner, like that's something you do in September. Rosters expand a little bit. You get a guy who you feel like can help you win games, get you to the playoffs, and maybe even deep to the playoffs. But in May, for a guy, he's your top prospect, still developing. You want to get him every day at bats, every day playing time. It just doesn't, with a fully healthy outfield, just doesn't appear to be that path to everyday playing time for him. So I think with that said, my expectation is that Pete Crow-Armstrong is the one that gets sent back down when Seiya Suzuki's ready to return to the team.
Yeah. I guess for me, when it comes to that conversation, you're loading the outfield, right? I think the only way that what you're saying, Ryan, the only way that changes, I think, is if the Tauchman, if he, someone
Back
in the,
is sore.
Yeah. Someone in the chat asked what happened to Tauchman. I think it was the top of the ninth inning. He dove for a ball in play and came up just a little bit short. And then as he got up, he was kind of twisting and, felt like he was a little shaken up. Played the rest of the inning. It was the ninth inning.
And he did bat.
So I think the only way that what Ryan's saying, if it doesn't go that route, it's just because Tauchman is actually not okay when he wakes up tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe it tightens up on him in the night.
Yeah,
maybe.
So
I hope not.
I don't necessarily agree with it, but at the same time, I do want PCA to get every day at bats. So and that's the only reason that I find any way to accept it. So
well, I guess my question is, why do you disagree with it? And I'm not saying that you're wrong to disagree with it. I'm just like, what the other side of the argument.
You mean for PCA being the guy
because
sent down?
I say this because is Bellinger going to be okay to go back in center? I doubt it. So you're going to play Tauchman in center, but Ian Happ struggling right now is someone who has defended him like he hasn't produced. You don't want to get rid of. You don't want to take it bats away from Tauchman if they did decide to put Bellinger back into center field full time. Also, Madrigal hasn't been productive. I know he's an infielder, but he hasn't warranted any reason to be on this roster. You're barely using Mastroboni. Like
you'd have to choose one of those two guys and keep an extra outfielder instead of an extra infielder.
But again, to take that all away, to take everything away of what I just said is again what Ryan said. The Cubs probably want PCA to play every single day. Has he been great defensively since he's been here? Yes. The bat, he's had a few games. He hit that home run against the Astros to win the game. He had a good couple games against the Red Sox.
Couple nice walks, too.
He walked today, which was impressive considering.
3 bunt attempts that I don't know.
Yeah. The bunting is,
it's just
different.
He's just not my thing.
Different conversation.
He's trying to, create havoc with his speed and whatever. I get it. I think with how this offense is struggling right now, he could provide a little bit of a spark in a different way.
Exactly.
That's just kind of how I view it. But I also understand why the Cubs would send him back, just because if you did keep him here and Tauchman is okay to play on Friday, with Seiya Suzuki coming back, he really doesn't have everyday at bats, unless you plan on, perhaps the Cubs would do what they're doing with Bellinger with Seiya. Maybe he DHs for a couple days, and then you can, play Bellinger at first base for a few days and, but then that takes away at bats for Michael Busch. So, you're taking at bats away from someone no matter what happens if you keep PCA up when Seiya comes back. So it just depends on who you feel like needs to sit. I know most fans would say Happ because he has struggled of late, but I just don't feel like
but if you have
the
to
Cubs
make,
will do that.
If you have to make a roster move, Ryan's scenario is the most likely. And then I would say 1B would have to be they'd roll the dice and say, all right, Masterboni or Madrigal, we'll go heavy on outfielders right now because 2, maybe 3 of the outfielders have something that's kind of bothering them. If it's Talkman's back, if it's Seiya, if it's Bellinger, now you got 3 guys that are kind of dealing with a little something.
Right.
Maybe for a week or 2 you want an extra outfielder. We'll see.
It's
that's
kind of
certainly possible.
whatever.
I think it all just depends on, like you guys are mentioning, Bellinger's obviously DHing right now. He's DH'd the last 2 games. Seiya, maybe he DHs. Like I think it just depends on how they're looking at giving out playing time and giving out at bats. If they don't see a path for PCA to get any semblance of everyday at bats, and he's just sitting on the bench, then it just makes sense to send him back down to AAA and get him development, because at that point you have a healthy outfield. You should have the guys that can help you win games through that outfield, right? But if you're looking at it as you want to get guys a couple of days off, you want to get guys DH time, there's a spot in the outfield for PCA. It doesn't have to be every day, but more, at least every so often or more often than not. Then maybe it does make more sense to carry him and obviously Talkman as your third and fourth and fifth outfielders. And to me, it depends. To me, it's all dependent on what's the path to everyday playing time or at least close to everyday playing time for PCA. If it's not with the Cubs, it makes more sense to have him down, continuing to just get everyday playing time with Iowa.
It just feels like to me he adds a different element to the offense and a different element to the team, which is going to give you another element to winning games. I do see the point of getting him every day at bats, but he had a pretty good couple of weeks up here. I think he's still a part of their best 9. I do. I think
he's only
he
2
is.
for 17 on the homestand. I mean,
right.
I think that's worth
a lot of good
offensively.
at bats and a lot of good approach to the plate. The hitless streaks are going to happen.
Yeah, what I'm saying is he's not on a hot streak where I feel like you need to keep him in the lineup. You know what I'm saying? He results-wise didn't have a great homestand with Milwaukee and San Diego. Had he had an outstanding last 6 games, then it makes it harder to take his bat out of the lineup. I think the way the results hadn't gone his way, it still makes sense or maybe it makes a little bit more sense to want to get him more at bats. Just keep getting him more at bats so that he can find that rhythm again.
To that point, though, it's like Ian Happ isn't exactly warranting at bats right now either. But the thing is,
send him down.
Right, you can't send him down. That's the thing, and it's all. I don't want to say it's reached Alzolay like levels. Like he has still, despite really struggling to hit, has found ways to still get on base via the walk, something that he does really well. But he obviously isn't hitting right now, and it's, in my opinion, it's a big part of why the offense has struggled. So that, to me, I'm not even really arguing against what you're saying, Ryan. I'm up in arms with, I feel like changing something up could work. I don't know. I'm trying not to get too over reactive to it because, again, the Cubs are 22-16. The Brewers lost. You're tied for first. You get an off day. You're going to go to Pittsburgh, where Ian Happ has raked throughout his career. So maybe he gets it going on the road. Maybe he starts to turn it around. They're going to need him to hit a little bit more, man. And he's not in the 3-hole anymore, so I can't use that excuse for him. He's got to start hitting. He's got to start finding ways to get on base. He's got to be better. Him and Dansby in general have to be better. To me, their struggles with the bat have been the reason why this offense has really struggled. So it's going to be good to have Seiya back on Friday on top of, whatever else they add.
I would agree with Ryan. I believe that's what's going to happen is that I only brought it up because I think when it happens, Twitter will not respond
Well,
well. That's just what I think. So to get ahead of it, I just want people to know I think that's what's most likely coming.
Do you think AAA pitching is going to help him a little bit more?
well,
Because Matt Mervis went down and he's hitting in AAA again too. That's my only argument. I'd like to see him get more major league.
The thing is, Kevin,
That's fair.
the thing is, Kevin, is that PCA was terrible in AAA before coming up, and then he comes up and hits a homer against the Astros. Like
True.
It doesn't necessarily make sense. And like Ryan said on the Homestead, 2 for 17. Sure, he worked a few walks. Sure, he had some good at bats, but I'm always being told results, no matter how much I stick up for a certain guy. So I think you have to weigh that out in certain ways. Of course, I think his biggest value to this team in 2024 is his defense. He ran down balls like it was nobody's business other than his all this entire time here, and I think that's a valuable thing.
Snagging
to have.
extra bases too.
Right. So there's give and take here. I think if they were in more of a developmental season, it obviously makes more sense to keep him up. But they're trying to win. They're in tie for first place. I think you got to go with guys who've proven it a little bit more. And I personally believe Ian Happ will turn it around. It's been a tough 2-3 week stretch for him, man. He's got to turn it around.
All right, real quick, Ryan, anything else we need to know?
Yeah, I was. You guys have been mentioning Ian Happ, and post game, Craig Counsell said that he thinks. He asked about Ian Happ, and he said he thinks Ian's kind of caught in between a little bit, and we ended up talking to Ian as well, and kind of got his take on that, on what exactly in between means to him. And he just said that he's kind of been ahead. He's found himself being ahead of off-speed pitches, and then even ahead of on fastballs sometimes at the contact point. So when you're trying to, he's just finding himself in between, especially when a guy like Dylan Cease is out here throwing upper 90s. So he mentioned the series against Milwaukee, and he actually did have a good series against Milwaukee, and gave obviously some hope that he was turning the corner. Obviously didn't lead to that, but maybe he needs a day. Maybe this off day can be good for him as just a complete reset, stay away from the field, and take a day to yourself, whatever. But obviously, showed some good signs in Milwaukee. Went out against the Padres, didn't have a great series. But I think as a veteran who we've seen go through his ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of a season. We've seen that throughout Ian Happ's career. But in the end, has been a pretty steady hitter for the Cubs, especially the last 2-3 years. I'm not saying I expect him for sure to break out and kind of get back to that level, but I think you do have some hope and a little bit of benefit of the doubt for a guy who has done it for multiple years. As a guy who's been with the Cubs, just second longest tenured Cub right now. I do think you can have some hope that the Milwaukee series was helpful a little bit. Now you're finally at the end of this stretch of 16 games and 16 days. And he could start to figure things out and just get back into a rhythm where, and he's not the only one. A lot of guys on this team are out of rhythm, are just not hitting very well. But obviously, Ian is paid to be one of the better hitters in this lineup, be one of the leaders on this team. And I think I do think there's some hope, and you can have some hope. And it's not crazy to think that he can soon find that rhythm again and get back to what he's been for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Okay, on the way out here, who you got? I'm of the belief when you get one hit, and that hit was by Yan Gomes. I use the term loosely, was by Yan Gomes' speedy legs, and nobody had Gomes. I believe we should probably go no winner, but
let's give it to Joey.
Ian Happ did have a walk.
Happ did have a walk.
And
I did force Brennan to take Happ today because I took
PCA. Kevin took PCA, so that would be a tie.
He did walk.
He did walk.
That's right.
I say we just give it to Joey. Joey picks Gomes whenever he.
That's right. This could be all right. Well, you want to give it to Joey? Should we give it to Joey?
Yeah, but just don't
save
tell
the
him.
no hitter.
Yeah, but don't tell him.
All right, Joe. We'll give it to Joey secretly.
I kind of like
DL.
I kind of like Vanilla Chill's comment.
What Vanilla Chill say?
Vanilla Chill says Corey wins. Frown face wins. Yeah, because that's what Kevin put on the graphic. Because he didn't submit a pic because he's coming back from Costa Rica today.
I tried to find the palm tree emoji to put in there, but I couldn't paste it in.
Yeah.
All right, so now they head out to play the Pirates on Friday, then the Braves after that. Ryan will be back in studio, and Barb was asking, are they going to be on tomorrow? There's no game.
Yeah, we'll be
the
on
answer,
tomorrow.
Barb, is yes. 3:30 Central Time will be the live show, roughly 3:30 probably, based on studio availability. We're going to be on live for an hour around 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to check out the live YouTube show. What's that?
I have the updated who you got stats, by the way, if we standings, if you want to read them out.
I'm still waiting for the...
I'll show you them tomorrow in the office. We got them.
Submit the discrepancy report.
I'm not submitting a discrepancy report because you're just going to...
Listen, in easy 5 or 6 paragraphs.
No. It's not going to happen.
Then run it through the independent investigator, and then we can talk about it.
Kevin Wells, the independent investigator.
Susie's on my side. Susie's actually investigating.
Susie's not here today.
She's not?
Susie absent.
All right. I guess my closing thoughts on this one is I'm filing it into the throw it into Lake Michigan folder.
Yeah.
We'll start that
With
Twitter
a cinder
thread
block.
tonight. Yeah, I'll start that Twitter thread tonight. I did the This Team Bangs folder yesterday, the games we gave away folder, and the games we had no business winning. Would have filed this one under the games we had no business winning if they made a comeback today, but this is definitely in the throw it into Lake Michigan folder. Yeah. It sucks that you lost the series. I guess you can look back at Monday and think, I should have won that game, even though, it was the middle innings. You gave up 6 runs, but I don't know. You're not going to win every series. You've gotten some luck from Milwaukee sucking it up against the Royals this week. If it makes you all feel any better, the Brewers should have got swept by the Royals this week. Willie Adames hit a 3-run homer in the 9th inning yesterday to salvage that series for them. They lose today. I don't know. That's my spin. Is I would feel better as a Cubs fan right now than if I was a Brewers fan. So day off tomorrow. Sulk in the day after a loss off day. It's always the worst. Nothing worse. But go to Pittsburgh on Friday, a team that you owned last year. Not saying that it will be any easier this year because they are an improved team, I think. But they are not playing great right now. So that's my spin zone for y'all to end the show. And
thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Go outside tomorrow. Don't stay inside on a day after a loss.
Until about 3:30.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I don't think
Except when we're on.
Nice,
Or if anything, yo, sit outside, bring your iPad or whatever, watch us.
Blue moon and an orange, and then, thanks for watching Fly the W.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Thanks for watching Fly the W. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.